You guys remember how back in the day, we'd get those episodes of sitcoms that weren't quite regular episodes, but weren't quite movies either? It was this weird middle ground that appropriately were typically referred to as just specials. These, most of the time, two-part events were often used to temporarily put the characters of a sitcom into a much grander setting, giving it a chance to tell a story that normally they wouldn't be able to tell in 22 minutes. To give the kiddies something fun to watch, and most importantly, air a lot of commercials. One of the biggest examples of this that I can recall is the iCarly episode I Go to Japan, something that I remember being advertised heavily and being treated like a big deal. To me, this special is the gold standard or the pinnacle of kids sitcom event episodes. It has just about everything I feel an episode like this would need. An ambitious storyline taking the characters to a place they normally wouldn't be at, high stakes that make it worth the runtime, and even a musical guest star. Shout out Good Charlotte. Clearly, I am not the only one that feels this way though, because years later, the Shake It Up writing crew woke up one morning and decided to more or less do that episode, but with their show instead, creating the special known as Made in Japan. The storylines are a tad different, of course, but I cannot help but think that this episode was definitely inspired by the iCarly one. Both are set in Japan, both are 3-part specials instead of 2, which is rare for kids TV. And then lastly, they even share the same actress, but now the question is this where the similarities stop? Or is Made in Japan a blatant ripoff of I Go to Japan? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. My name is Mr. Nostalgia, and today we will be comparing these two specials, not just to see how well they hold up, but if there's a bigger connection between them than meets the eye.
Shake It Up is made in Japan.
Everybody in Japan is gonna know who we are.
And everything
Maybe we just shouldn't be partners.
will change. Shake It Up, made in Japan. This summer on Disney Channel.
The setups for both this episode and I Go to Japan aren't too different, but at the same time, Japan is such a specific and far place to go to, especially for the cast of characters present in both shows, that you almost have to come up with a really big reason for them to even travel there. Both setups lean into the main essential concepts of both shows heavily. While it's a Web Awards show that takes the iCarly crew to Japan, a dancing competition is what ends up bringing the Shake It Uppers over there. This competition, though, was orchestrated by Watanabe Studios, a big media company in Japan that has their hand in pretty much every cookie jar when it comes to entertainment. That is, besides a dance video game project. Because this was 2012 and games like that were popular. Mr. Watanabe gets a recommendation from one of his assistants that they could perhaps adapt the show into a video game, at least to some extent. Considering he ended up liking the idea, he decided to greenlight it, putting Keiko Ishizuka, the one who suggested it, in charge of everything. Thus creating this dance competition in which all the different Shake It Up shows shown across the US battle each other, with the winner being sent to Japan so they could become avatars in the game. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room real quick. I alluded to this earlier in the video, but in case this woman looks familiar to you at all, this is Ali Maki, who played Kyoko in the iCarly episode, I Go to Japan. Literally, when I sat down to watch this episode and I saw her character for the first time, I said to myself, wouldn't it be funny if that was the same actress from I Go to Japan? I mean, there's no way it would be. That would just be a little too crazy. And then what do you know, it is. Was this a coincidence? Or did someone from the Shake It Up staff actually watch I Go to Japan and decide to cast her based on her appearance in that episode? I will let you guys decide.
Huge concerts, movies, an anime cartoon, and your own line of singing toothbrushes.
Anime cartoon? Basically, the only 3 crews left are New York, Miami, and of course Chicago, where Cece and Rocky represent. I have next to nothing to say about the actual dancing scenes, aside from the fact that the other 2 teams were objectively better than Bella and Zendaya, but main characters always gotta prevail, I guess. And they do in fact prevail. Chicago is the team that ends up winning the competition, which means Rocky, Cece, and most of the crew are headed to Japan. However, this is when we learn something new about Rocky. Apparently, she actually has a fear of flying and doesn't like the idea of using a private jet instead of a standard, statistically safer commercial plane. Understanding that this is obviously a huge hurdle they need to get over, Cece enlists a hypnotist to help Rocky get over her fear.
What are we doing today? Insomnia? work stress, animal hoarding.
Golly, I know her Willem Dafoe impression go crazy. Can you do me a favor and say, "Can the Spider-Man come out to play?" Relax, y'all. She doesn't actually sound like that. I googled it before I made the joke.
It's what I do.
Basically, Rocky's fears for flying have been solved by the hypnotist, but Cece says that hopefully this will also make her loosen up a bit more in general, as she always seems to have an issue with cutting back and having fun. The hypnotist then gets the idea to make it so whenever Cece touches Rocky's shoulder, she'll instantly agree to do whatever it is that Cece wants to do. Since earlier in the special it appeared that Rocky wanted to use her time in Japan just to do a bunch of calm and laid back activities, which to her are fun, but doesn't interest Cece in the slightest. Even Cece, out of all people, isn't too sure that this is a great idea though. But once she tries it out, she realizes that maybe this will actually improve the quality of their trip. So she decides to keep it around without, of course, telling Rocky. Yikes. We already know where this is going to go. Now, let's talk about the cast of characters that actually make it on this trip. It's basically everyone from the main cast, but minus Deuce, who stays back due to the writers not being able to come up with a reasonable way to justify him going on this trip. He's the only series regular that stays back, though is still featured throughout the episode, as Ty is constantly on a video call with him, keeping him up to date with what's happening so he still feels included. Oddly enough though, somehow this dude Henry makes the cut, who if you don't remember is one of Flynn's friends, but unfortunately it does actually kind of make sense why he's in the episode. On top of the main cast, Cece's mom and Gary Wilde are included on the trip as well, which makes a lot of sense considering Cece needs a chaperone and Gary's the host of the show. Ty is Rocky's chaperone naturally, but I'm not sure who was supposed to be watching these kids though, the Hessenhevers or whatever. I high-key hated these guys, I can't lie. Y'all remember that one episode where dude got mad that his sister wanted to date someone other than him?
I want real date with real boy. I mean, it's not like we're going to grow up and get married. You do know we're not going to grow up and get married, right?
Oh, what? Honestly, I'd love to just stop talking about these two, but unfortunately I actually do have something to say about a scene they are in. So at some point after they got off the plane, the twins lose their luggage, which means they don't really have much in the way of clothes. Fortunately, one of the Watanabe employees lent them an unlimited credit card to use while shopping so they can pick up some new ones.
Oh, please. Our clothes are like family.
You want to marry them?
If you lost your family, would you want a credit card to buy new ones?
Yes, like what kind of question? We see this little fashion show that is set to the song "Fashion is My Kryptonite." I vaguely remember this one, but after listening to it again recently, it occurred to me that for whatever reason, Disney really wanted this to be their version of Sexy and I Know It by LMFAO. And I don't really know why. Sure, it was a popular song, but why use that for inspiration out of all things? I'm not gonna play it for obvious copyright reasons, but just give the two songs a listen and compare them. You'll see what I'm talking about. Song's horrible, by the way. The Shake It Uppers are introduced to Mr. Watanabe and his grandchildren, one of which is played by Sophie Oda, who played Barbara in Sweet Life.
1 minute, you'll sing on the street corner. The next, you got concerts, movies, and anime cartoons.
Stop saying anime cartoon. You're literally Japanese. You should know this. Anyway, their introductions when the episode starts to spread out, and that's when we get the numerous different subplots, some of which I'll talk about, some of which I'll probably just glance over in passing, but impressively, nearly all of them do actually add importance to the story in some way, shape, or form, and weren't just solely there for filler. I think the funniest one, though, is Cece's mom trying to track down her old pen pal named Michi to see what he's up to now, and perhaps even go on a date with him. But the entire thing was actually just a misunderstanding. See, it turns out Michi is actually a woman who thinks that Cece's mom, whose name is Georgia, is a dude named George. So when they meet up, they have no idea what to do. And you'd think this would just be a throwaway gag to fill time, but somehow Michi ends up being a super important character later on. She comes in mad clutch, I can't lie. Another subplot deals with this robot dude that Flynn's friend made falling in love with a smart toilet.
And might I say, your blue water really brings out the sparkle in your bowl.
Oh, this old tank? You're going to make me flush.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
A common thing found in specials like this are celebrity guest cameos that only a select few people within the target audience would get. I Go to Japan had Good Charlotte, who I actually didn't really know at the time, but now I do actually like. I'm more of a Newfound Glory and Yellow Card type of dude nowadays, but Good Charlotte is good too. Made in Japan, however, has the Blue Man Group. These guys are pretty cool though, and clearly the Shake It Up staff agreed, because the first 5 minutes of part 2 is literally just them performing and interacting with Rocky and Cece. Dudes was out here stat padding to fill out time. That's crazy. In terms of the actual story though, part 2 deals a lot with Mr. Watanabe's grandkids, unfortunately. While Watanabe has his own idea for the video game, they want to make an app using some of the design from the game as almost a lead up or a preview to it.
And they'll dance to whatever music you play. People are gonna be all, konnichiwa, what?
Watanabe tells them that they have a marketing team for stuff like that though, and won't be needing their help. Cece and Rocky, seeing this, encourages them to keep pushing though, as they really do like the app. On the flip side though, they have their own things going on. As stated before, the two of them have very different ideas on what they want to do while in Japan. Cece sees this as an opportunity to get discovered by someone who can make them famous, and for some reason, despite not showing a lot of interest in music throughout the show, is really focused on becoming a pop star. Then again, you don't really need talent to become a pop star, so it is what it is. This is the first time where Cece decides to use the whole hypnotizing thing on Rocky to convince her to do what she wants to do, and it actually ends up working, which is unfortunate for both Rocky and me, because now I have to listen to this horrible song.
The greatest moment of our lives, you were you and I want to rule the world, you want to wake it up.
Okay, time to fast forward. Fun fact about this scene though, the DJ in the back is Cole Plant, who for a while was Disney's very own EDM DJ. There is a point where Disney was trying to put bro in everything, so you might know him for his work on that one mashup song that Bella and Zendaya did around this time. He also worked on Nonstop Summer for Disney XD, and apparently composed Max Steel. That man stayed employed. I love to see it. Somehow, Cece and Rocky actually managed to please Mr. Watanabe by their singing, if you want to call it that, so he ends up signing them to a deal, and everyone goes out to eat after to celebrate. But Rocky sells the bag by bringing up his grandkids app multiple times, despite having multiple different opportunities to change the conversation. At some point, words become lost in translation, and Mr. Watanabe thinks that she's insulting him. And low-key, he's got a point.
No, you're confused.
Hey Rocky, can you I don't know, just getting silly here. Shut up. I don't even want to know why you want to help these guys so much. I mean, she's fine, but this dude makes me want to jump off a bridge. Or even worse, force myself to relive Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. Speaking of this, I wrote this joke a while ago, but I'm recording this the day after the Spurs blew that 30-point lead to New York and Madison Square Garden, and I am ecstatic right now. Do you know how happy I am? Where are all those fake Spurs fans that were in my comments talking about, oh, the Thunder lost, blah, 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 blah. Nah, bruh. Where y'all at? Come here.
Shake It Up will be back in a twirl on Disney Channel. Now we're back to Shake It Up on Disney Channel.
Watanabe not only rips up their contract, but also says that the Shake It Up project has been canceled, disappointing everyone at the table, especially Ms. Ishizuka, who was the one spearheading the project. As if things couldn't get any worse, Watanabe says that the only way he'll continue with the video game is if Cece and Rocky get kicked off the actual Shake It Up show. So, Gary Wilde does what he has to do and gives them the boot. Speaking of people getting the boot, the entire Shake It Up crew gets the boot as well. They are not only kicked from their hotel, but also have to find their own way home. Everyone is obviously very saddened by this news and even scared. After all, they're basically lost in Tokyo with nowhere to stay. That is, until Georgia remembers her conversation with Michi, in which Michi said that if she ever needs anything, she can feel free to let her know. Well,
I didn't really mean it. Come on, kids. Come on, let's go. All right, keep it moving.
Michi a better person than me, bro. I would have been screaming like SpongeBob in that one episode.
No! Everyone, get out!
Of course, at some point, the whole hypnotizing thing was going to come back to bite Cece. And so we see that in part 2's closing scene, where Rocky picks up Cece's phone while she's away and talks to the hypnotist. Cece comes back, and that's when Rocky lays into her about the whole get on board thing, even putting it together that she's already used it while on the trip. The thing is though, CC is also mad at Rocky for putting them in this situation to begin with, and so they're both just kind of angry at each other. And honestly, this scene actually goes kind of hard. Hold on.
We're supposed to be partners. And a partner is supposed to push you to do your best, not constantly tell you that you're wasting your time.
Well, maybe we just shouldn't be partners.
Let me just put this in a way that you might understand. I've become a supporting character in the CC show, and I'm done.
Yo, she said, I'm not going to be nobody's Emily Osmond. That's crazy. A lot actually happens in part 3 of this special, as all of the subplots and side stories come to a head. But of course, the main issue at hand, at least in the beginning, is fixing Rocky and CC's relationship. And to be honest with you, this scene is surprisingly good. Basically, every main character in the episode, minus the Haseneffers, talks to the both of them in an attempt to get them to piece it up. They all drop words of wisdom about how they should move on and go back to being the best friends that they have been for years. Even the robot gets on the action too. Wow, that's crazy. The words shared by the duo's closest friends and family were both well thought out and quite touching. How do they respond to them though?
Never going to happen.
Oh well, can't say you didn't try. Something worth noting though is that in part 2, there was next to zero attention spent on the Haseneffer twins. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure they had any lines despite them appearing in a few scenes. I'm assuming this was because episode 1 gave them a decent amount of screen time, and episode 2 had much bigger fish to fry than giving any lines to the dude that wants to marry his sister. But as it turns out, the two end up being quite essential to the story, as it's them out of all people that make CC and Rocky decide to put the beef aside. Basically, Tinka gets arrested after assaulting a cop. I should probably add more context to that, but I don't really want to. So, because of this, she gets deported. Yeah, but the kids somehow manage to get to the airport before she leaves. CC and Rocky are able to convince the officers to not split up the pair, but while doing this, they realize how important it is for people who care about each other to stay together, and as a result, end up burying the hatchet. As for the twins though, they end up getting put back on a plane to the US. Hey! Oh, my fault. Sorry, never mind. CC and Rocky get one last chance to apologize to Mr. Watanabe, but in order to reach him, they have to pose as dancers for a show. At first, once he recognizes who they are, he starts to get upset. But then he says that considering that their performance made his mom smile for the first time in a long time, he decides to put them back on Shake It Up Chicago and his video game. Not to mention, everyone is allowed back into their suite. Extra rooms now too, considering the twins are gone. Things don't remain happy for much longer though, as Watanabe's grandkids, Hideko and Ichiro, come in to deliver some bad news. Turns out they decided to put the app on the store anyway to pique people's interest in it. The good news is, it went viral. The bad news is, it has a virus, and it's affecting everyone's phones and devices. Also, what's unfortunate is that as part of Watanabe's new deal with the girls, he's allowing them to perform at an event later this evening. But with all the computers down, they aren't going to be able to actually perform. This is why Flynn's little nerdy friend Henry is in the episode. Henry and everyone else goes to that big computer server that I feel like is in every Mission Impossible movie in order to fix everything in there. The only way to plug in the flash drive, which would get rid of the virus, is to climb into a vent and access it from there. Considering the dangers that could come with pulling off such a task though, they decide to send Henry's robot Andy up into there to get the job done.
That's right. Do it for love. Giving yourself up means your toilet will live on forever. Wow, this is so not what I thought Japan would be like.
Shake It Up Riders locked in for this one. That was actually kind of funny. Andy manages to plug in the flash drive, but in the process, dies. His sacrifice wasn't in vain though, because every computer in Tokyo was back up and running thanks to his nobility. Although normally this would be a reason to celebrate, Watanabe enters the room to chastise his grandkids. But the girls manage to convince him to not punish them thanks to them pointing out the similarities between him trying to win his mom's approval like we saw earlier and them trying to win his. Not to mention, Watanabe realizes that he should have been more open to the idea of hearing them out and at the very least taking a look at their work. He apologizes, everyone hugs it out, and they all live happily ever after. Except Andy, I guess. Oh wait, that's crazy, he's back. Kinda. The episode ends with Rocky and CC singing their brand new song that CC wrote earlier in the special. The song is quite appropriately called Made in Japan, and at first everyone boos them because of their connection to the virus. But as soon as they start performing, they're able to win the crowd back. Shake It Up music is pretty hit or miss, I can't lie. If it's not Watch Me, Something to Dance For, or this song, it can get to stepping. Really, Bella and Zendaya's music careers are just results of Disney trying to shove music into basically every single TV show in some way or another because of one reason and one reason only, money. Zendaya is not a bad singer by any means, Replay is still a banger. Clearly this hasn't affected her much though, as she's still going on to be very successful, and rightfully so. Bella Thorne on the other hand is not good though, she cannot sing. No disrespect, but she brings down every song that they both share whenever she starts singing. It's like when the Spurs sub in Luke Cornett and then instantly start blowing whatever lead they have, you know? But this song isn't bad though. Granted, I don't love their vocals on it, but the EDM inspired instrumental is enough to make it a decent listen, and survive those Luke Cornett minutes. The special ending with them singing feels pretty far away from what the actual show is about, but at the same time, it still does end with some dancing, so it is enough to bring the episode home and put a bow on this crazy 3-part adventure. And clearly, the crowd agrees too. When I first came up with the idea to do this video, I was low-key putting off watching the special because I've just never been a fan of this show for one reason or another. That being said, oddly enough, this ended up being the most I've ever enjoyed a Shake It Up episode, no lie. I mean really, a 3-part Shake It Up episode is definitely something to be a little scared by. It definitely was never one of Disney's best shows, so I was pretty nervous to find out what it would look like in what is basically the length of a movie. But I was pleasantly surprised how much I ended up liking it. Yeah, it's not great, but it's also pretty hard to make a 2-part special for a kid's show, let alone 3. The title of the video was always meant to be a little hyperbolic. While I do think there's a really good chance this episode wouldn't have existed without I Go to Japan, it does do enough to make it stand out from it. Both are centered around big events that have to do with the main essential concepts of both shows, and a few other small things here and there. But ironically, where Go to Japan zigs is where Made in Japan zags. For starters, Made in Japan is a lot more character focused. A lot of the episode deals with the relationship of Rocky and Cece, even having them temporarily end their friendship, which I feel like is a very common go-to for specials like this, and it's one that I'm pretty indifferent on. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, it really just depends on the show. I remember when iCarly did that one 2-part special where Carly and Sam broke up, and I kind of hated it. Schneider shows were just never good at being sincere. They were always a little too mean-spirited in my opinion, so I'm really glad I Go to Japan didn't go that route. Made in Japan, however, handled it pretty well in my opinion. I say this as someone who typically does not care about Cece and Rocky, but this episode made me care about Cece and Rocky. A little. I thought the whole Cece hypnotizing Rocky thing was dumb, but I think more than anything, what made me care was again, the sincerity of it all. Like, when they were arguing, I felt that. When the characters all tried to convince the two to make amends, I felt that. And then even better is they solved their beef like not even 10 minutes into the episode. It's not like they dwelled on it or anything or made it longer than it needed to be. Story-wise though, I Go to Japan takes it, I can't lie. Even though it all kind of ties back into the story somehow, Made in Japan just has too many subplots going on. A lot of it is because Shake It Up just has more characters, but even with that being the case, they were kind of just doing way too much. Cece and Rocky go to Japan for this video game thing, right? And so you're led to believe that the video game thing is going to be integral to the rest of the story. But it's not. It kind of just gets brushed aside. All thanks to this totally unnecessary app subplot that did not need to be in the episode at all. Like, was this special made to promote some Shake It Up app that I didn't know about? I feel like the episode was just more complicated than it needed to be. What if this was like the final season of Cobra Kai, where instead of a karate tournament, it's a dance tournament, bringing together all the best dancers from around the world? That would have been so much cooler. Just, no one dies this time. I Go to Japan, though, was definitely more focused on the actual story, mainly only having an A and a B plot. It's more action-packed, has better jokes, and has a much more satisfying ending. But iCarly was just a better show, too, so some of that is just to be expected. Hard to beat jokes like this.
Yeah, we're checking in.
Oh, honeymoon couple.
Oh!
Made in Japan still managed to be entertaining, though. The special had some admittedly really good laughs, and the story, although a bit bloated, was still pretty decent as well, creating a fun watch. If I Go to Japan is a 4 out of 5, I'll give Made in Japan a 3. Not as good, but still manages to hold its own. What I want to know though are your thoughts on this episode. Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Check out my Patreon if you want to see content earlier than everyone else. Also subscribe to my second channel, simply titled Stalgia, for more of me. I'm also on TikTok and Letterboxd, so give me a follow on there as well if you'd be so kind. If you're new, feel free to subscribe and hit that like button. Yeah. Okay.
Love
Love you
you guys.
guys. Don't forget to smile.